Welcome to the Natural Health Podcast. We bring awareness of sustainable health in the business hustle space. Natural Health Podcast is perfect for the high-performing, business-minded individuals who want to work with their biochemistry to achieve success and optimal health. It's Friday, which means it's time for friends sharing facts about health, business, and overall success. In today's episode, we talk to Selena Maestas. Selena is a life and mindset coach for mum entrepreneurs. She helps mum get off the hamster wheel of hustling and grinding so they can have fun and ease in both their business and their home. Selena's mission is to help mums understand how they can be both an amazing mum and a successful business owner without running herself into the ground. Some of Selena's hobbies include being outside, if that is in the sun or the snow, learning all things, currently learning more about the human design, and totally geeking out on it. And she absolutely loves dancing. An interesting fact about Selena is that she does her best writing and creating in bars. Welcome to the Natural Health Podcast, Selena.
Thanks, Mahela. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome. Well, thank you so much. This is our second go of recording this podcast interview. So hopefully we'll be able to go ahead with that. We had some technical difficulties, but that's what happens these days, isn't it?
Absolutely. Tech is terrible.
So tell me a little bit, you're talking a little bit about human design and you're learning a little bit more about it. Can you give us, what is the human design?
What is human design?
Yeah, it says you're currently learning a little bit more about human design and geeking out on it.
Yeah. So human design is just another way to get to know yourself. I've been following astrology and I have an astrologer for a long time, and it's been very helpful to just kind of see how the cycles of my life roll out and how I can then use that knowledge to help my business and help my personal life. And human design is it's like a higher level of that. There's more involved. It's actually, there's quite a lot of information. I haven't even tapped into all of it, but it just gives me more of a map of how I can work and live in my best self by knowing what it is that my human design, like how my body is created and how I fit into the picture of the universe. And it's been really, really helpful and quite eye-opening. And it really did help me actually shift from still not hustling as hard, but still definitely finding myself in those moments of like, oh my gosh, I need to hustle. And then reminding myself with my human design, I need a lot of rest. I don't re-energize myself. So I have to make sure I take that time to slow down. It's been really helpful for me to get to know my clients better as well.
Yeah, wow. I love the different aspects, like you said, astrology and all those things, so we can understand ourselves a little bit better and understand where, our strengths are, where our given weaknesses are, so we can understand us and then also understand how we work with others, which is everything that you do anyway. So with where you are today is absolutely fascinating, but I mean, there's always a journey behind the person. So what is the journey of Selena that got you here?
Well, I was a health coach when I started coaching, and my health journey is what kind of got me to become a life coach for this type of thing, the hustling and burning yourself out, essentially. And when my kids were pretty young, 3 and 4.5, I got divorced. I was in the middle of a divorce, and I moved out, and I had to then now kind of run my business and then get a side job to make ends meet, like on my own, plus the stress of my children and what they're going through and all of that. And so I started pushing really hard because I had to make more money than I used to. I had to take care of us. So I was pushing, working a job, and I got a really actually pretty good job, but it was stressful, plus trying to run my business, plus trying to manage my children and manage my emotions going through this divorce. And what ended up happening is that I was just super run down. I was already really tired all the time, and I couldn't figure out why. And I went and saw my naturopath, and I got diagnosed with adrenal fatigue. I was in stage 2 of adrenal fatigue. And so I did protocol for that. But the minute I started feeling good again, I just pushed myself again and ended up the second year of that in even a worse boat where I was in adrenal fatigue stage 3, and I had a reverse T3 syndrome, which is a not so popular thyroid condition. So with both of those things going on, and I was a fitness instructor and I was a triathlete and I was doing all of that on top of working, my naturopath told me I needed to completely rest and she said 6 months. It ended up being 7 months where I was basically bedbound. I could get up and do stuff, but I wasn't allowed to like go for walks, because if I did, I'd end up in bed for like 3 to 5 hours just going for a walk. It was really crazy, actually. Like, I don't even know. It was the craziest thing I've ever experienced. But that's when I realized that I've been a doer my whole life. Like, that was how I thought that's how I needed to get love. It was my whole mantra was, if I achieve, therefore I am. I had to like earn the love of my parents by doing things. So for me to go from being a doer to now being forced to rest was really an eye opener on seeing now that I can't sustain being a mom present for her kids, being a business owner, and having a job. I can't sustain that at this rate that I'm going.
Yeah,
And
wow.
it's
What a huge health journey. That is extraordinary. Being bedbound after hustling your way through. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was not fun. It was very humbling. Went from athlete to like barely being able to do anything. It was pretty humbling. So it was about 3 full years until I felt better, till I could go back to some exercise, and I basically went from 3 years of really working to get better to then managing the condition and making sure that I'm not pushing. But like I said, I find myself still trying to push until I found out what my human design was and started leaning into the rest piece, and everything shifted for me. So I really wanted to make sure that no other woman was going through this, like believing the stories that were told from society, and maybe growing up as a female, that we need to do all for everyone else and not do for ourselves. And it's like an epidemic. It is the way that we are taught. And so my goal is to make sure that I can help women see there is another way. You can be successful without the hustle and grind. You can love like, I feel like most women get so overwhelmed from working so hard and pushing so hard that they're not even enjoying the life they're trying to create.
Yeah, wow. That would definitely ring bells to individuals listening, and it'll hit home for them, because they're like, what? Like, listening to this podcast, they're probably like walking or running or doing work or cleaning, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can just stop. I can stop and I can just be. And you're saying I can be successful? That doesn't make any sense, because the scripts written in my head are, you need to do to be, and you need to action to achieve, and to have success, you need to be the one that's doing it, and doing it all the time, even 2, 3, 4 a.m. And unfortunately, you're a great example of what can happen to an individual when they keep going. And even when and I love the part, I don't love it. I mean, it would have been horrific, but you said, you got better, and then you got worse, because, we go, okay, we're feeling amazing. And then we just go back into our old days, because we don't take on those habits and we don't change things. So it's extraordinary that you've come out of that and actually have made the changes. And now you're here to assist other individuals make those changes.
Yeah. And it's really powerful to watch women transform into like the same surprise that I had. It's like, well, I can slow down and it can be okay. Like, there's so much fear when we're trying to build a business in particular that we're going to fail. And when we're told that we don't, like, I remember when someone told me, you don't have to do. And I looked at them like they're nuts. I'm like, what do you mean I don't have to do? How else do things happen? But there's a difference between doing things that feel good to you at a pace, and that's really the key, a pace that feels good for your body, versus just pushing, like just doing work to do work, right? Just pushing for pushing's sake. There's no like reason other than a lot of times we feel scarcity, or we just feel fear of failure, and so we're just like, I gotta just keep going. But you can keep going at a pace that feels good. Like, I tell my clients all the time, what is the rush? What is the rush?
Yeah, what a great question. What is the rush? And I remember someone telling me one day, being like, well, Mihaela, you're rushing and you're pushing against this, but the universe and whatever you believe in has its own timeline, and doesn't matter, you're going to get there. If you're pushing or not pushing, you're going to get there. So which way do you want to take? And I was like, what do you mean? Well, that doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
I don't do, and things get done. So exactly like what you said, it's just extraordinary. And a lot of the business professionals and, entrepreneurs and things like that, they, action means results. Results mean an income, an income means money and freedom, and we can spend time with family and friends. But here on the podcast, we talk a lot about success. So what does actual, before we get any deeper, what does success look like for you right now, Selena?
Oh my goodness. So success for me, actually, this like last year, because of COVID and all that we were forced to slow down, I really have shifted the way that I look at success. For a long time, there was like a dollar amount I was after. And I got really close to that dollar amount actually in 2019, and then 2020 came and that all changed.
Wow.
But success for me now, after this year and really leaning into the like legit slowing down because there was not a whole lot to do. I feel like for me, being able to run my business and live my life at a pace that feels indulgent almost. Like I give myself a lot of time to get things done. Because first of all, when I was rushing, I was also missing a lot of things. Because I have ADHD, I'm not a good proofreader. Like when the faster I go, the worse it gets. So I just want to feel ease and flow. And most importantly, I want to have fun. So if there's something that's brought to me or that I decide I want to do, I have to make sure it's fun. Because if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. It feels to me like a waste of energy. So really just being in a space where I feel really grounded and whole, that's really what I want. And yes, I would like to make some money too, which I am, but it's really about that because at the end of the day, no matter if we want the house or the car or the money or the fame or the whatever, we want all those things because we want the feeling that comes with it.
Yeah. You're so right. It's the feeling that comes with it. And then if we can replicate that feeling without those actions or without that result, we have that feeling. And it's mind-blowing for us to even believe that we can even achieve that feeling without having that house or without having that, income or without having whatever it is that people are trying to achieve. Yeah, it's mind-blowing. So now that we know a little bit about yourself, I absolutely love your story and what you're doing. Let's talk about today's topic, your absolute passion, the anti-hustle success plan, how we can achieve success by not hustling. I mean, that in itself, a lot of individuals will be like, that's very contradicting.
Right.
But let's talk about it, Let's start off with what is hustling? What's the hustling movement? What is all that about?
So the hustling is where I'm watching women. This is what I'm seeing, and I did it myself. Is again, we just feel that we have something to prove. I think, especially as women, just in our society, especially here in the States, it's just it's kind of insane the amount of pressure we put on ourselves because of what we've been told from growing up or from just the media and just the way the society is run is that if we're going to leave, not be full-time mom, then we have to, if we're going to get a job or run a business, then we have to prove that we can do that. Like we're kind of pigeonholed in like, you're either going to be a mom or a business owner or a mom or have a career, but we can be a mom and those things. And yes, of course, it can be complicated and definitely a little crazy at times, but there's no reason why we can't do it. So we have to be careful though, when we take that on, can we do it in a way that feels good? Can we do it without damaging ourselves? Are we taking time to take care of ourselves first and not last, which is how most women seem to operate? And that's the hustle, is like, let's just push, and let's prove to everyone how awesome I am. But then the detriment of that is people get run down. They get full on burnout. They get sick like I did. They aren't present for their kids. Their relationship with their spouse or partner starts to fall apart because they're just not themselves anymore. They're losing themselves, trying to prove themselves.
Losing yourself whilst trying to prove yourself. Wow, love that. So, you're talking about mums, individuals who have kids and so forth, but, even individuals who don't have kids, they are going through the similar, if not the same aspects because, running a business for some people is like their baby. It doesn't sleep. It
100%.
never sleeps.
Right.
It needs to be fed. It needs to be attended to emotionally, physically, mentally. So, all of the things that you're talking about can also be put in an aspect of individuals, who don't have kids in a way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I see that too.
So
men also go through this too.
yeah,
It's just a slightly different shade of
yeah,
the female version.
yeah, 100%. So why do you think women are addicted to the movement, the hustle movement? What do you believe they're going to achieve, like with working nonstop and just pushing through? Because what you have said is they're actually not enjoying what they're doing. They're just getting that product out, getting that service out. So why are we addicted to it?
Well, I know for me, I had this big dream of being like from when I was a little girl, like I want to be famous, whatever that means, right? So I think part of it is we look up to other people in the same industry as us, or having businesses that are similar, that are like higher up at this point, making more money, doing all the things, and we aspire to be those people because they inspire us to be there. So there's that. Otherwise, I really just think that for women to achieve big is less heard of than men. So when we are in this world where we're told we need to be small and be quiet and sit down and you don't get a seat at the table, a lot of women that I know are very ambitious and they want that seat at the table. They want to prove something to themselves, to the world, whatever. And there's nothing wrong with having that ambition. It's just, how do you go about doing it to not make it harmful to you as a person?
I love that. How do you achieve that without it being harmful? Because, we all have the right, being male, female, whatever it is, to have an influence on this world that we're living in. Gender shouldn't be, gender, sex, ethnicity, and so forth. Age shouldn't be a barrier for us to influence the world that we want to be living in. So I agree with that 100%. And, some individuals, that are women and in the business world may have to push a little bit harder to have that success. And by pushing a little bit harder, they are the ones that are hustling more, and like you said, there's so many other side effects of hustling. So what damage does the hustling movement do to our health? What are the side effects that it has on our health? And then we can talk also about on our business.
Right. Well, health-wise, I think the biggest thing that happens is we don't sleep as well. And the sleep really is everything. And the older I get, the more I believe it. Like, when I was younger in my 20s, it was like, I'll sleep when I die. Like I'll be fine on no sleep. And that is not the case at all. We need our sleep. And when we are working extra hard for our businesses, for our careers, that's the first thing we give up is our sleep. So that's the first one. And maybe you are sleeping, but not sleeping well because your mind is going and going and going all night long. So when sleep starts to get affected, that's like the first sign that something's amiss. And it's the most important one to pay attention to. But most of us, that people I know, myself included, we just think, oh, I'll just sleep more on the weekend. Well, that's not enough. So that would be the first and biggest sign, but also noticing how you are able to perform the job that you're trying to do. How are you performing with your family? Are you present? Are you finding yourself being tired at odd times? Are you more irritable? When we get burnt out and run down, we get a little cranky. And those are things that are very, we kind of push it off like, I'm just having a bad day. But when it becomes more of an everyday thing, or you just feel body aches and fatigue, that's a huge one too. Working, and a lot of what I know of, a lot of the women that are doing are in high powered careers or are running their businesses, a lot of them are really wanting to keep their health up. So they're exercising. But when you're starting to burn yourself out and then you add exercise on top of it, I know exercise is healthy, but it's actually more harmful when your body's already starting to get burnt out. because that extra stress of the exercise compounds the problem of not sleeping and not taking care of themselves and not getting what they need to sustain themselves.
Yeah. Sleep. You spoke about sleep. It's one of the, like you said, I'll sleep when I die. And that's a script that's written in many people's heads. It's like, oh, I'll just, sleep is for the weak, or,
Yes.
you have a competition with other business owners. How much sleep have you had? And they're like 3 hours. Oh, I've only had 2 and I'm still productive. But how productive? Like how long for? 1 night, 2 nights? I mean, sleep impacts, like, if we sleep, I think there was a study done that I remember, and if you sleep less than 6 hours, it impacts your cardiovascular health. You're more at risk of getting heart disease. And heart disease is absolutely huge all around the world, in America and Australia and so forth. So we underestimate how important sleep is for us. And for our brain to function and to be on point and to get those business ideas up and running, we need sleep.
Yes, absolutely. Our brain cannot run on it. I mean, I'm sure people listening can totally relate to waking up with brain fog and like having it all day long. Well, that is a direct result of something not going correctly in your body, right? And it's very challenging to make decisions, especially, and most of us have to make decisions all day long. So that can be very harmful to not only your own mental health, but to your business as well.
Yeah, like you said, not to only your mental health, but also to the business. So what happens to our business if we're hustling our way? I know you've touched upon some points, with our brain health and our health and things, but what are the results in our business?
Well, what ends up tending to happen is that we end up really self-sabotaging. We get in our own way a lot because if we're not able to make those decisions clearly and from a feeling of confidence, then we will start to block ourselves from where we're trying to go. We won't make the right decisions, or we will overthink it because we're not sure what decision to make. So what I've seen is it can really stall out people's businesses. 1, they're too tired. 2, they're not being able to make really powerful decisions. And 3, they start to lose their confidence when they're starting to feel run down. I mean, when your body, the other thing that can happen is your body, the hormone part of your body starts to go crazy, and your adrenals start to look minded. Your adrenals stop working properly, and then you're pumping out cortisol at the wrong times. And it's supposed to help buffer inflammation, but when it's going out at the wrong time, it actually makes everything so much worse. And your body you just can't function that way. And it causes everything to kind of implode. And there's no way when you're that run down, you're able to be, the CEO of your business in a capacity that you probably would like, which is one that's running on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cascade, what you've just mentioned. It's like, you have that one stressful day, you don't sleep, you don't eat that well, and then you're not confident. So you lose that business deal, you lose that client. It's like a domino effect, and there is a clear link between them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so what would you say are some scripts? I know one of the main scripts is I need to work, I need to hustle to get results. Right. I guess that's just a given script that, busy hustling women run through their heads. What are some other common ones?
Well, one that I said earlier, I brought this up in a group I was in, and I have something to prove. And no one liked it when I said that, but they all thought about it and went, yeah, that is exactly what I'm doing. So I think that's part of it. I have something to prove. Depending on I'm just speaking of women right now, but depending on the woman, some women are like me where they're single parents and they have to figure it out. So a lot of that can come from, and you don't have to be that person. It could be anything where you have a fear of the scarcity part. So you need the money. I have to make the money. I have to push to make the money. It feels so truthful that your world will crumble if you don't make it fast enough. And that's a big one. That's a really powerful one, especially if part of it could be true, but at the same time, hustling there consistently and for a long time can really break you down, and then you're not able to work or make money. So the money factor's in there, the proving factor, and a lot of time it could also just be comparing themselves to other people. So why can't I be where she's at? How come I'm not there yet? I should be there by now, especially people that have been doing their same business or career for a long time and it just hasn't gotten traction for whatever reason. Then we beat ourselves up. I should be further along. It's a lot of looking at other people's middle when we're at our beginning, or we're at our middle and they're at their end. And we're like, why can't I be like that? Why am I not there yet? Really, really pushes people to push themselves that much harder.
And all those scripts that you said, the audience, myself go, yep, I know what you're talking about. The scripts, they're not rare, they're very common, and a lot of individuals have them running through. And I think the scarcity one, the comparing one, I mean, all of them, but scarcity is a huge thing. It's kind of like, it's going to run out. It's not going to be there. I need this much, and things like that. But how would you, so these scripts are written in our heads, okay? So we have them, we've acknowledged it, we know we have them, but how do you go about rewriting these scripts? Or do you even go about rewriting them, or do you just leave them?
Well, I help my clients rewrite them. And there's parts and pieces to all of us that we can keep that don't need to go away. But when we have those thoughts in our head, I mean, our mind, when we think about where the thoughts come from, the mind isn't on our side. Our mind wants our body to stay safe. So it doesn't want us it wants us to not be uncomfortable ever. So it's always trying to keep us, whatever we've been doing, good or bad, like logically good or bad, it's going to have us still do the same thing over and over and over. So we get really stuck in there. So part of it is we need to be aware that, that's not necessarily true what my mind is telling me. Like, I need to push, I need to work harder, I need to get up to, be just as good as that person over there. That's not truth. That's just your mind's way of keeping you safe, quote unquote safe. So when I work with my clients, I kind of have like a 4.5 part system. I really start with helping them see the overwhelm that they're living in, and we overhaul that piece first. So it's like time management. And when I do like time management and decision making, that's another big one in the beginning. It's really looking at how their time management works for them. So it's not like we're all going to, what is it called? Time block. We're all going to time block and we're going to do it this way. That doesn't work for everybody. So I make sure that I give them lots of options and they get to try it out. A lot of this is trial and error, right? Because we've been doing the same thing, we've been hearing the same scripts our whole lives. So we've been doing the same thing. And now it's time to change. We got to make the changes pretty small at the beginning or they're not going to last. So I figure out for them what works with time management and then how to make decisions. Some people make decisions really quickly. They have really good gut instinct. Some people need to take time. And that's one of our problems too with hustling is that we learn from social media or whatever that this is the way you should make decisions. This is the way you should manage your time. And then if they try it that way and it doesn't work, they think something's wrong with them. So I try to help them clear all of that up. And I also help them learn right in the beginning what type of busy they are. I call them my busy personas. So we can start to see where the breakdown starts. It starts when we get really busy and we're starting to run ourselves down.
Yeah, I love your personas. I went on there and I did the quiz.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I just did the quiz and mine came out as Felicia. Frantic Felicia. So when I'm busy, I just go frantic, don't know what to do. But I have learned definitely how to manage that. But that does ring a bell definitely a few years ago. That sounds like me. You've written here, achieving, doing, being busy is what you like to define as your worth. Even when your free time is turned into a project or a task. That's like me. If I've got free time, I don't want to watch a movie. Let's watch a documentary. Let's watch, a seminar. So yeah, I love those three. I think it's 3 personas that you have. What are you able to go a little bit more into them?
Yeah. So I was Frantic Felicia too.
Sure. Yeah. Hello, Felicia.
I know. The other 2 is Exhausted Emily. So Exhausted Emily is someone who pretty much has just been the people pleaser of the group their whole life. They're the one that really doesn't want to be busy at all, but this is just the way their life has been. They don't know any other way. So they're not like running around doing all the things. It's like their day to day is just kind of a slog. And so they're just overly exhausted, and they're the people that really are like wanting to just get off the, have the world stop so they can get off type of thing. And then Confused Christy is, and it's so funny because this was someone, when I created Christy, it was based off of a couple clients that were like, wait a minute, these are the people that like, I'm really confused. Why is everyone so busy? Should I be like that? Maybe I should be like that, because they hang around with other, I'm not in this group anymore, but I was in a group where it was all mom entrepreneurs, and we would have all these networking events. So we were all friends, and we would see other people, and like then we're like, oh, well, that person's really busy. Maybe I should do that because I hang out with these people. Maybe that's the secret to success, quote unquote. And so Confused Christy is like, I'm not really sure if I want to be busy. And is it okay if I'm not busy? Can I still be successful? And that's kind of her trajectory. And the only reason why she gets into trouble is that she starts to kind of like copy and want to be like them, and then pushes her into a whole different realm than her body's used to. And so she starts burning out in a different way than the other two personas. So
yeah, wow. So you've got Felicia, you've got Christy, and you've got Emily.
And generally, when I do my course and I show them all three, everyone's a little bit of all of them, but we usually resonate with one more than the rest. That's pretty interesting.
And I like what you've written here on when I've done the quiz. And I mean, for the audience, I'm going to put down the notes below so you can do the quiz yourself. For Felicia, it says, and this hit home, what am I afraid to lose by slowing down my need to do? That question, if you just sit on that question and just breathe in and think about it, that can go very deep. And that can definitely lead into rewriting the script. And I can see where that's coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the question I had to ask myself. Like, I can't sustain this. What am I afraid of? Why do I think I need this so badly?
Yeah. So if someone came to you, let's say this busy entrepreneur woman came to you and was like, I need help, I know you mentioned a few things like, time management, decision, but what's the first step that you do with her? What's the first step that you do with her? She comes to you, she's busy, but she wants to be successful and she just doesn't know what to do anymore.
Well, I go through kind of the things I already mentioned, but the part that really starts to give them more insight to what's going on internally, not just because that's all external stuff, right? Time management, decision making, well, technically that's internal, but you're doing it for an external purpose, is really looking at the way her mind works. And that's where people, like I said earlier, they sometimes feel broken or like they're doing it wrong because they know that they might even know logically, I really do need to slow down because I'm not feeling really well, but they just keep pushing. So I teach them a few things about the brain, but the first thing I teach them is the motivational triad. And this is how our brain technically works. This is how our, if we were to think about like the caveman days, our reptilian brain is just here to stay alive. Like I said, your mind just wants your body to stay alive. So teaching them that our brain is wired to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and do that with as little effort as possible. So even if we logically know I should go to bed before 10 o'clock, our reptilian brain is like, no, you've been doing this other way so long. This is routine. I know how to do this. So let's just go ahead. Stopping and going to bed early feels just uncomfortable when that's not what you're used to doing. And so your reptilian brain is going to want you to stay up later like you normally do. And so it's really hard to make changes when you're constantly feeling almost like you're outside of yourself, sabotaging yourself. So once I teach them that, it kind of gives them a moment of, oh, so this is normal, or this is like, it's not my fault. I'm like, no, this is just the way your brain operates. But that is when I tell them we need to rewrite this, and we can shift it slowly over time so that your brain doesn't think you're going to quote unquote kill yourself by going to bed earlier, because that's literally what it thinks. So it's like, no, don't do that. Danger, danger. Like all the sirens go off.
Yeah. So
So
I
that's
love that
really,
you
yeah.
include the education and then the triad of
Hmm.
motivation. I think, but you know, showing that to individuals, that would be a huge wow factor and a huge, um, I'm not alone, or I'm not weird, I'm not different, you know, like you
Right.
said, that in itself is huge and extraordinary for an individual's self-discovery.
Right. It really brings awareness to what's happening between their ears, which is what I help them see. So when we can figure out why we feel the way we do and why we're having these thoughts and all of those types of things, we're able to then drop into more self-awareness, self-confidence, and then self-belief. And I do think a lot of times the people that are pushing themselves the hardest don't believe in themselves as much as they'd like to.
Yeah, the confidence
Hmm.
and going back to what you said, if you don't sleep well, if you don't do this, your self-confidence goes down. And
Hmm.
that is a huge aspect. So it's like an ongoing circle, but I love that you've
It
put it all
is.
together. So are you able to give us a little bit of information about what is the anti-hustle success plan? I know that's in the topic of this podcast, and a lot of people are waiting for it and be like, so what is it? What is the anti-hustle success plan? Is it, the newest thing out there, and what is it? And I know you've given us so much information already, and yeah, so you're able to give us a bit of a rundown on that.
It is, it's kind of some of the things I've already talked about. It's really taking you from where you are right now to a place of enjoying your life and your business, not just for pushing sake. It's to enjoy that. So I help you, like I said, I help you overhaul kind of everything you're doing in a way that feels good. And I'm going to tell you, when I started doing that and when my clients started doing that, it made everything else after that easier. When they realized that it doesn't have to be this, this special way, it can be a way for me and unique to me. It gave them a lot of power back because
Mm.
they were now in charge.
Yeah,
So,
and what you said earlier also rang a bell, that we are given this outline of you should do it this way to be
mhm,
successful. You need to follow 1, 2, 3, 4. But what you're
mhm.
saying is to be successful, you need to have fun and do it your own way.
Yes. Doesn't that sound so much better?
I love it. It's mind blowing
Yeah,
because, um, yeah, it's mind blowing to a lot of people. They're like, I can achieve success and have fun and do it my own way. I don't have to follow, someone else's system and things like that. Even though those systems and some of them have their own, benefits, and we can pull
of
out of them, see what works
course.
for us.
Right.
But you will help understand, our busy persona, understand us,
Mhm.
and then be able to put in a success plan.
Right. Yeah. And taking that all the way from just your day-to-day stuff to the way the brain works, your awareness, and then we create a plan based on what you want to believe and getting yourself to actually 100% believe in it so you can be in that energy before you even have achieved it, like it's already done in the future and we're just on our way. That's a big piece of it because then you feel like, kind of like what you said in the beginning, like things are already, the universe will make things shift for you. It will be there. You just have to trust it. And when people can trust in their self-belief, then everything just starts to roll out. I know it sounds nuts, but things just start happening and it seems very magical, but it's just because you stopped pushing. When we push, the universe or the higher power that you believe in pushes back. Like it is resistance when we're trying to force something because everything's, in my opinion, happens on its own time.
Yeah, they push right back at you.
Right.
Had experience with that. It's interesting. You said it's already there, and we're just on the way there. I think
Mm-hmm.
those words are powerful in the sense of, if we believe that whatever it is that we want, it's already there, and we're just on our way there. Like, how much easier do you feel? Like those tense up shoulders that are right up to your ears are finally falling down.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
can take that deep breath and go, I'm on my way. I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming.
The last thing that I do when I work with my clients too is I teach them how to celebrate themselves.
Mm.
It's shocking to me how many women, and I've learned this over the last couple of years. I'm like, every time I ask this question, they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, so did you sell? Like something will happen in their business, and they're like, oh, I have a win. Here it is. I said, okay, what'd you do to celebrate? And they're like, what are you talking about? I think it's a good idea to celebrate yourself. Well, and then they'll say, oh, well, it wasn't that big of a deal. That right there is just showing us where our mind is when it comes to this type of stuff. We don't feel like we deserve to be celebrated sometimes. It's not quote unquote big enough to celebrate. When we start to celebrate every little win, it builds, I call it your belief bank. It gives you evidence that you are doing the thing and it is working and things are in your favor, because our brain likes to look at everything that doesn't go well. So if we start to build up this celebration, this like even just a high five, whatever you need to remind your brain, oh, look, I did a thing and I didn't die. I did this scary thing and I'm still here, which means I can do it again and again and again. And it just like, that's the snowball effect. And all of a sudden they're feeling amazing. They're living their lives the way they want. They're on the road to where they're trying to go. It's beautiful.
I love that. Celebrate your wins. It's such an interesting aspect. Like you said, a lot of people, they just go, well, why should I celebrate it? It's nothing major. I know this is, a bit off, but birthday, I love celebrating my birthday. I am healthy. I'm alive. I have one more year around, the world. Like, this is amazing. And I absolutely love doing that. And then you get a lot of people being like, why? Like, you're not a kid anymore. You shouldn't celebrate. And I'm like, I'm celebrating.
Me too. I love my birthday.
Yeah. And the wins are so key, because if we understand how our brain functions with the reward system, if we reward our brain when we do something that we want to keep doing, there we go. It's going to work. We do it to our kids. We do it to our partner. We do it to our business people. Why not do it on ourselves? And it's an absolutely great point to reward the goods, because we definitely drill deep into the negatives or the bads. And as a business professional, and entrepreneurs, we definitely do that really good. That's one thing that a lot of business professionals do really good, is see the negative and drill ourselves about, oh, we should have done this, we should have done that, that wasn't good enough. But what you're saying is flip it around. When you have really good days, go take yourself out for coffee, get a massage, go for a walk, take half a day off, go do that hike, just little things, to go, you're doing amazing. You're on your way.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take myself out after this podcast.
Yay, good. I'm glad to hear
and
it.
You should too, because wow, what an amazing thing to share this information on this platform, because I love what you do, and I love that you're sharing this brilliant information, because, we know most of this stuff, but when you put it into such, simple and methodical, words and methods, it's just so much easier for us to understand the anti-hustle success plan. So you've mentioned so many practical tips for the audience, and what happens when they come to see you, or what happens when they decide to be like, I'm busy, I need help. But is there any other practical tips for the audience to incorporate to plan their anti-hustle success plan that you could shed some light on?
I would really question. That's my big thing. I want people to question their thinking. Like when they wake up in the morning and they're already like shooting out of bed and like rush, ask yourself the question, what's the rush? Like that's a good simple one to start with. What's the rush? And also questioning anytime okay, here's part of it too. I don't think enough people feel into their bodies very often. In fact, half the reason why I feel like I have a job is because people don't like to feel emotion in general, which causes a lot of problems. So when you are feeling tension in your chest, which if you are a hustler, you probably do multiple times in a day, that is your body's way of saying, hey, check in, please. And so if you can notice when you feel tense and just kind of take a moment, and you could say, I say it out loud because to me that helps. Like, what do I need right now? Like, body, what's going on? Like I ask myself questions. Otherwise, I would stay in that tense mode all day. And as we've already discussed, being in that kind of state is not helping you. It's making everything worse. So if you could question what's the rush and ask your body what it needs when you feel that tension, I think that would be a great start.
Wow. Just with those two questions, you'll create some very health conscious entrepreneurs, which I love. What is the rush? And hey, body, what do you need? Because we're always talking to everyone else, but we don't really talk nicely as often to ourselves. So changing that talk. I love those two questions. They're absolutely brilliant. I'm definitely going to try and incorporate them in because I always seem to be on the rush. So I can definitely relate and be like, hey, Mahela, why the rush?
Yeah, good.
I love it. And the audience will be able to take that on too, because what's the rush? Like, why, what's the rush and what do you need? My body. Yeah. And look, to finish off, I ask all my guests, as this is the Natural Health Podcast, what is your best kept natural health hack? And what I mean by that is, anything that you might do on a daily basis, on a weekly, even monthly or yearly basis that really gets you and your health on track.
Well, probably I have two favorites. My first favorite is I meditate, not every day, but every other day generally. I never used to, especially as a frantic Felicia, like sitting still is not my strong suit, but I've learned how to do that and then just be very grounded. And I only do it for like 5 or 10 minutes. I'm not like an hour meditator. It really just keeps me from starting the rush cycle, like, because it's still in me. I could still totally go that route. I just am more aware of what it does. The second thing is I move my body at least, like purposely, I should say, at least 3 times a week. And that has kept, like, that for me, it's always been the way I was. And for me, that is everything. If I'm not doing that, I just always feel terrible. So just 2 simple things.
Wow, you gave us 2, not 1. I love it.
They go hand in hand.
They do 100%. Look, Selena, thank you so much for joining us on the Natural Health Podcast and talking about the big hustling movement, the success plan, and, busy entrepreneurs and what they're able to do. You gave us so much insightful information. So thank you so much. So if anyone wants to work with you, how are they able to get in touch with you?
Okay, so social media, I'm on Facebook and Instagram as @Selena Maestas Coaching. Those are the 2 main platforms I have. And then my website is just my name, selenamaestas.com. And you can use the contact form there, or you can email me at selena@selenamaestascoaching.com.
Beautiful. And I'll put all that in the show notes, and also the busy persona quiz that you can see if you're also a Felicia like us. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us on the Natural Health Podcast. I really appreciate all of your knowledge and information that you've shared with us today.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us at the Natural Health Podcast. And remember, the missing link between failure and success is your health.